Check another one off the list. Jimmie Johnson has now won at Bristol, his first win on the half mile, but his 50th win overall in his brilliant career. Makes it 3 for 5 this year, and now he's in some great company as a driver. Jimmie Johnson has tied Ned Jarrett and Junior Johnson for all-time wins with 50, and now once the smoke clears, he has made another milestone in a brilliant career. Hello everyone, and welcome to NASCAR Victory Lane on Speed, which is fueled by Sunoco. I'm John Roberts alongside of Kenny Wallace and Kyle Petty. And you know what, with a 10-lap shootout and you got a bunch of great cars up in front of him, you still can't hold off Jimmie Johnson. He went after this one with a vengeance.
And it was all about track position. Jimmie Johnson on the high side, Kyle, and he gets the break he needed. In the car that he could not beat all day long, the 2 car, he got caught in traffic.
Yeah, the car he couldn't beat got hung up on the inside line. The inside line didn't go on that last restart with 10 to go. And what happened was he had clear sailing. Now, he had to drive. You know what I mean? He tried Tony on the inside. He tried him on the outside. But those 4 tires beat 2 at Bristol in a 10-lap shootout every time. And there's nobody, if you go back to Dover last year, nobody you want in a 10-lap shootout or 15-lap shootout more than Jimmie Johnson right now.
But I must say, race fans, we are getting full of fun in NASCAR. This racing has been incredible. From Daytona to right now, it's been coming down, Kyle and JR, to the last 10 laps. I mean, none of it's staged. It's real racing, and we're so lucky to see this type of racing going on right now.
And this racetrack here at Bristol has been somewhat of a mystery for Jimmie Johnson and company over the past couple of years. He's had bad luck here before, and now that only leaves 3 racetracks on the circuit where Jimmie hasn't won. One of those racetracks being Homestead, because he hadn't had to go down there and win. He's had to go down there and protect his championship.
You're in protection mode when you go there. He has been in the past, but if he keeps running like he's running, what's this, 3 out of 5?
3 out of 5 this season.
He's not going to be in protection mode when he gets there. And I don't care if we run 26 and then 10. He's not going to. But, you know, I think that is an amazing statistic. We can look at 50 wins, getting there faster or as fast as anybody else has. We can look at some of the numbers that he's thrown up. But I think when you look at the amount of racetracks that he's won on and the amount of racetracks that he's won on multiple times, that's amazing.
And I think he just replaced Tiger Woods for Gatorade. Look how giddy this guy is. He's won, what, 50, 60 some odd races, and he acts like he's never won a race before. That's how much this race means to him. I mean, this is the first time he has ever won at Bristol, and race fans, he earned it.
We're used to seeing Jimmie Johnson in victory lane, and he usually celebrates about the same way, but you probably can believe as he,
hey, he's throwing perfectly good food away.
I guess we shouldn't say he's tossing. I guess we shouldn't say he's tossing the groceries. I could take it the wrong way. But nonetheless, Jimmie Johnson is very excited about winning on this racetrack, because I'm sure you have checklists as a driver, and you go through, what have I done here, what have I done there. This track has always been tough for him.
Yeah, but you got to look. He's got to be running out of things on his checklist. You know what I mean?
It's very short.
And I think that's why he's so excited, because when you look at it, there's 3 or 4 racetracks that he's not won on. He's not done this. He's not done that. He's won championships. He's won the Daytona 500. He's won at Charlotte. He's won at Indy. He's done this. He's done that. Yada, 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 yada. I mean, finally, when you hit something that you haven't done, it's like, touchdown, ladies and gentlemen, I have done it.
Because it doesn't happen very often for Jimmie Johnson, breaking all the records when it comes to championships and running in the chase format. But now let's take a quick look at the highlights of how Jimmie got it done. Of course, we'll have much more in-depth highlights a little bit later. And there we have pole sitter Joey Logano taking us to the green flag. And one of the favorites for this race, one of the winningest drivers ever at Bristol with 5 victories, Kurt Busch on the high side. But check it out, because Jimmie Johnson is in tow. Now let's remember, we are at Bristol, and we will see our share of beating and banging as we see Joey Logano go up high and somehow get through there without getting in trouble. Nicely done by the pole sitter, but his day would not end the same way. Now, these are all good friends right here. We have Carl Edwards on the low side, Brad Keselowski on the high side, and coincidentally, we were watching it from the roof of Kevin Harvick's car. But look how far they stayed apart, and they minded their manners, and I'm sure NASCAR was glad to see that. Here is the Bristol version of the big one. The Biff goes up high, Mark Martin goes with him, but it's what happened behind them is what really got everybody in trouble. As Jeff Gordon gets in the back of Mark Martin, you see a number of good cars involved in that one, but probably one of the slickest moves of the day was the way Kevin Harvick got through there unscathed and would end up with a top 11th place finish for Kevin Harvick. But here we go, the battle on the high side of Tony Stewart. It was Jimmie Johnson who made it work, and yes, he is at that milestone of 50 victories as he has now conquered Bristol, but he has also taken a very important spot in the record book as he ties names like Ned Jarrett and Junior Johnson on the all-time win list. So what a great day for Jimmy Johnson and company, but you know what? It just simply shouldn't surprise us. And if this is a sign of things to come, I mean, we're in for a heck of a year of watching some records fall.
18 laps to go, and we're thinking, you know, Kurt Busch is going to run away with this deal. 18 laps to go, and all of a sudden, Scott Speed blows a right front tire. That's what set up all this drama. Remember, the right front tire was Scott Speed, and boom, it's a jumbled finish, and here we are again with the surprise winner.
Yeah, you know, that's why we run 500 laps at a place like this, because it comes down to the last 10 laps. No matter what goes on, we can watch highlights all day long. The highlight is him driving around the outside of the 14 car at the end of the day. That's the highlight that matters, because that's what put him at number 50.
So when it comes to Bristol racing, for what it's usually known for, this was a pretty tame day, but it was also a great day for Hendrick Motorsports as they record yet another victory. There's the boss man congratulating driver. We'll talk to both of them when we come back.
NASCAR Victory Lane is fueled by Sunoco, the official fuel of NASCAR. Put the fuel of NASCAR in your car. Brought to you in part by Cece's Pizza, home of the endless pizza, pasta, salad, and dessert buffet. And by Honda Generators, the power of choice.
Welcome back, everyone, to the world's fastest half mile. This is NASCAR Victory Lane, fueled by Sunoco. It's called Thunder Valley, and for good reason. Put 43 race cars on this track, and it sounds like a very, very loud clasp of thunder. But this was race number 99 for the Cup Series here at Bristol. Let's take you back to the green flag, where we had a first-time pole sitter in Joey Logano. 44 starts under his belt, and this was the first time he led us to the green flag, but it was Clint Boyer who brought out yellow flag number 1.
Yeah, before lap 50. Look at this, a little bit of oil underneath the motor there, burst into flames, but he's okay, gets it off the racetrack.
So that's a tough blow for the Richard Childress Racing cars, but doing so well so far this season. And Kyle, there goes Joey Logano to the high side, not on purpose.
And he had a tire issue. And look, they did a great job. The 7 car right here did a great job of not just nailing him in the back right there, but he misses his point. He comes in past the cone, so it's a little bit of a penalty. But he had a flat tire, had to come in.
I think that's how close it was, Kyle. I think the 7 of Robbie Gordon just peeled that off. You're right, that was close to being a disaster.
Up at the front in the early going on in this race, we know with 500 laps here, it certainly is a long race, but Kurt Busch is a guy everybody had their eyes on coming in this race with 5 wins, going for 6.
I just think it's fantastic, this new double file restart. Back in the day, a year ago, if you were single file, that was enough. Now every restart, I mean, it's phenomenal, too wide.
A little bit frustrating here for the folks at the racetrack and the fans as well, as we had just a little bit of sprinkling going on. The yellow flag came out this time for rain, but the weatherman told us that it wasn't going to be too severe, and we're going to be able to get back to action. And you remember that this is the easiest dry in all of NASCAR when it comes to racetracks. So we went back racing, and Juan Pablo Montoya and Greg Biffle were showing the way.
Yeah, no, and Juan had a great car at this point in time during the race.
We had almost a record amount of lead changes up to this point. I think we're reaching some 20 lead changes. So this was a great race fans. You know, even though the 2 car was leading, here comes the Biff.
Biff back on the high side, and that's what's been great about this racetrack lately. Just like we talked on race day, they used every inch of this racetrack. They were up next to the wall, they were down next to the bottom, but the outside groove, the older the tires got, seemed to get better.
And in some situations, you needed every inch of this racetrack, as we have some more great battling going on. And Kyle, you had mentioned it earlier, the racing today, you know, we didn't have as many cautions as we do normally at Bristol, but we did have more lead changes than ever.
Yeah, we had a lot of lead changes, but you know, somebody said it when we were interviewing him. I don't know if Wendy was interviewing him or Hermie. And on race day, they said, you got to be something extra special to pass somebody from the bottom of the racetrack. We saw the 2 car pass on the bottom. We saw the 48 car pass on the bottom. We saw Mark Martin before he got in that accident. But there weren't many guys that could go to the low side and get around people.
And at this point in the race, Kenny, I think it was pretty much up in the air as to whose race it was. It was anybody's game.
Well, you know, at times it's like, okay, Kurt Busch is going to run away with it. Oh, but here comes Jimmy Johnson. No, here comes Greg Biffle. No, here comes Juan Pablo Montoya. Oh, no, here comes Mark Martin. You see what I'm saying? The race was awesome, and at any time you thought somebody was going to challenge the 2 car, but they never quite got there the whole race.
Yeah, and the other thing was that's the first half of the race highlights. This was almost 2 different races because these guys were counting on some weather. They got that first little taste of it, and they said, yeah, this is going to be a halfway point. We got to race to the halfway. They raced to the halfway, and it looked like the weather was going to clear out, and then it's like, okay, we got to push the reset button, which changed the strategy for a lot of crew chiefs and a lot of teams.
Under NASCAR rules, that if a race goes halfway, that was lap 251 here, that you could. Thanks, Kenny. Kenny's the one that can make me happy. We're going to take a break. We'll be back here to Bristol to show you how the last 250 laps wound down at the world's fastest half mile. Welcome back to NASCAR Victory Lane on Speed, fueled by Sunoco. Mr. H is in a very familiar position, standing next to crew chief Chad Knaus and celebrating yet another victory for Hendrick Motorsports. Now, we didn't have the normal number of cautions, but we did have almost a record number of lead changes in the first half of the race here at Bristol. Let's pick the action back up in the second half after lap number 251, where many eyes were towards the skies, and we were worried a bit about rain at this point. But actually, Kyle Busch was worried about having just a handful of a race car starting on Friday.
This is all about Joe Gibbs Racing. Why? Because all 3 cars, Joey Logano had problems, Denny Hamlin, and now Kyle Busch. So right front tire problems for Joe Gibbs Racing.
We'll talk much more about the Joe Gibbs Racing problems, but now let's go on board with Dale Earnhardt Jr. For a while was up in the top 10, but it was not one of those kind of days.
Yeah, and he comes across the radio and says, hey, look, it was kind of funny. They said it reminded him of the number 3, Dale Earnhardt Sr. He come across the radio and he said, look, I didn't gain anything by speeding. Why are they penalizing me? You know what I say? Nice try, Junior. Every time they get you on that darn computer, you're dead in the water.
Yeah, you're dead. They got numbers now. Used to it was a stopwatch. You could argue with them a little bit. They got numbers now. And he got penalized for being too fast on pit road. But I'm telling you what, he came back and had a great race.
Look at the distance that Brad Keselowski and Carl Edwards are keeping between one another. And it's only coincidental that we're watching from Harvick's camera.
The only gap between these guys is the amount of words that they've spewed over the last 2 weeks. That's what's keeping them apart. It's just the hot air that every one of them has said and has been said about them. I'm telling you, they gave each other plenty of room. And I think that shows that these guys came back from the adversity from a couple of weeks ago, all the hoopla through the off week. And you got Harvick right in there behind him that's got in the mix this week. But they gave each other plenty of room, and they respected each other on the racetrack.
Here comes the Bristol version of the big one. Greg Biffle and Mark Martin started. Everybody else finishes.
Yeah, and you know what was interesting there? Mark said it, and it looks like it when you see the replay. The 5 and the 16 got hooked together. The 5 said he was on the brakes and could not get off. You see a puff of smoke, like Mark's on the brakes trying to get off of him right here. You see the little smoke coming out right there? Mark's on the brakes trying to get off of him, but they're hooked. Bumper to bumper, they're hooked. Mark's got a right front going down. I know his team said he didn't, but those sparks kind of show, and the thing doesn't turn.
Greg Biffle's spotter apologized, said Greg Biffle's cord from his helmet got unplugged, and he could not hear him. So here we go. Mark says time to go. Okay.
Watch the Biff.
Oh, no, I'm hooked. You can tell the Biff is turning left.
Yeah, the Biff's turning left, but Mark's into him and driving him, and Mark's on the brakes, and when Mark kind of checks up, it just pulls the car around into the outside wall.
So this is a wreck that nobody's going to be mad at each other because it was just a wreck.
Couple of teammates up at the front of the pack here, Brad Keselowski and Kurt Busch. And you know what? If you want to learn about running around Bristol, I'd say you'd go to Kurt Busch to see how to get it done.
I think this week you go to Penske. I mean, what a great day they had in the Nationwide Series, but then they come back here and run in first and second at this point in time in the race. Brad's guys made a great call to stay out at that point in time to give him position, and track position is so important here.
And Brad Keselowski goes on to finish 13th. Even though he's fighting for the lead, he stayed out on tires. 13th place will give him a solid points finish. So he's doing good right now. He's telling his teammate, get ahead of me, get ahead of me.
So here's the final restart with 10 laps to go. Greg Biffle leads us to the green. It looks like at this point there's about 4 or 5 cars with an opportunity to win it. But look who is running P4, and watch the way he works himself up through this small crowd of traffic.
Matt Kenseth got a horrible restart. That's what caused the 2 car to not get going. But here we go.
When you see Jimmy Johnson in your rearview mirror, you know one thing's about to happen.
Yeah, you know, he had to choose a line. He tried the outside. It didn't work. He fell into the bottom there. Finally, the 14 gets around to 16. And once the 14 gets around to 16, 14's set and duck, because I'm telling you, he's rolling through the middle on these 4 tires.
Let me make the point for all of you people that are just tuning in. The 48 has 4 brand new tires. Tony Stewart only has 2 tires. That's why the 48 goes on to win it.
Here comes the checkered flag for Jimmy Johnson as he takes his first at Bristol, his third this year, and also his 50th in his career. Congratulations all around from the fellow competitors. Steve Addington, crew chief for the number 2, says this one got away, and Jimmy Johnson is the one that is celebrating in victory lane at Bristol. Let's take a look at the results of the Food City 500. It's Johnson, Stewart, Busch, Greg Biffle, and Matt Kenseth round out your top 5, so a very good day for Roush Fenway Racing.
A great day. Biffle had a good run all day long. Matt hung in there, run up and top. And Carl was out of the race at 2 or 3 times. For Carl to come back and have a good run after the last couple of weeks, that's a big boost for that team.
Kevin Harvick, he's been amazing the last 2 weeks. The last 2 weeks he's been running 30th. And then we go, what's wrong with Harvick? And here he comes to finish 11th late in the race.
Paul Menard's 18th place finish was not indicative of where he spent most of the day. He spent it a lot higher in the standings than that, but that's where he finished. Bobby Labonte 21st, Juan Pablo Montoya 26th.
I got to give a call to David Stremme. He just jumps in this car that has been running last every race, finishes 24th. Good job, Stremme.
Marcus Ambrose had some trouble on the racetrack in that big wreck. He got the worst end of that, and again, not indicative of how he runs on this race.
No, I think when you look at Marcos and you look at Casey and those guys were top 5, top 10 cars most of the day.
As we take a look at the points, we will remind you that after this race, the 5th of the season, when we go to Martinsville, we now revert to the top 35 being set. You okay, Kenny? Top 35 is set.
There's a new points leader.
By this year's points. Anyway, a new points leader of Matt Kenseth just by 4, but take a look at Dale Earnhardt Jr. in the 8th spot. Not bad. And Kyle Busch coming in to finish the way he did on Friday afternoon. He was cursing the car, to say the least.
Hey, I got to say something. Paul Menard is going to be beside himself when he lines up 9th in the points.
Are you kidding me? He's got to be beside himself after coming out of this place. He had a top 10 car 90% of the day, and the way the day played out, he ends up 18th or 19th. The way that team has run this week or this year for Richard Petty Motorsports, they're the flagship. Now Casey runs great, but this is a consistent guy and a consistent team right now.
I say every time you go to Martinsville, race fans, as a Cup driver, if you're on the good side of the hot dog stand, that means you're big time. So Paul Menard going to be on the good side of the hot dog stand, which is towards turn 1 and 2. Good job, Paul.
All right, nicely done by that team, the number 98 team. When we come back, we'll have a very happy winner, Jimmy Johnson, coming over to join us. Welcome back to Victory Lane at Bristol, everyone. Talk about being in some great company. Look at the list of NASCAR Sprint Cup all-time winners, and look at where Jimmy Johnson is on that list with his 50th career win, up there with Ned Jarrett and Junior Johnson. Now another guy named Johnson is in that 10th spot on the all-time win list. Welcome, Jimmy Johnson, to Victory Lane. This one seemed like it was just a little bit sweeter. You get to check another track off the list.
Yeah, I'm just so proud of the team, and it's taken us a long time. It's been 9 years to finally figure this place out as the 48 car, and then before that, I had 2 years of Nationwide where I hit some walls all around this place. So I'm glad to have it behind me and done, and to race that hard at the end of a race. I mean, man, my heart was on the rev limiter. That was exciting racing.
Did you think you had enough time to win the race when they went green flag? You had approximately 11 laps to do it.
No, when we left pit road, I thought that we were in a position just to finish in the top 5. But when we went off into turn 1 on the first lap, I rolled into the corner and I had so much more grip. I almost ran into the car in front of me. And at that point, I thought, wow, I actually got a shot at this thing.
Yeah. Okay, if for the viewers at home, this is not a replay from earlier in the year. This is another race that you've won this year. Okay, so let me be real clear about that. But after this was a great move. You tried him to the outside, you tried him to the inside. Your car worked as well on the bottom of the racetrack, it seemed like, as some of the other guys, and we talked about that earlier. But here's my question to you. You win the race. And I've been fortunate to be here for all 50 of your wins in some way, shape, or form, either getting lapped on the racetrack or sitting in the garage watching. That's the most excited I've ever seen you.
Oh, I mean, without a doubt. What's cool is to set a goal and fight so hard to get it and to go down the road I have at this racetrack. We've had the Lowe's executives here and up in a suite, and they built a big deck over here with the top choice lumber stuff, and we had all these big moments, and I'd wreck on the first lap or within 5 laps. So to have that all come full circle and to really run well here and give the Lowe's employee owners something to cheer for, my team something to be excited for. Jeff Gordon's been great here for years, and waxed my butt out here with being in identical equipment, just kicked my butt on the racetrack, and I'd go home with my tail between my legs, and then, finally we've got it under control, and I'm excited about that. But I do have to point out that 2 car was awfully strong. I got to give credit where credit's due. Kurt was really fast. I think it was about a draw. Maybe clean air would have helped me. I may have been able to hold him off, but that restart at the end and the fact that I was in the outside lane made all the difference in the world.
Okay, time to have fun now. There have only been 5 racetracks that you have not won at. So here we go. Na, na, na.
Yeah.
What 5 racetracks have you not won at?
Michigan, Homestead,
Michigan, hold on, here we go. Okay, okay.
2 road courses, and
Two-
Chicago.
2 or
You got him.
my gosh!
Yeah.
Believe me, I know. You are smarter
rattled
than
them
a
all
5th grader. You are smarter than a 5th grader. Great job.
Man, you are good.
That was actually up when you asked me the question. So
What? It was not.
No, he's joking. He got it. He knew.
I want to ask you a question. They showed that list. Okay, you're on one of the most historic racetracks on the Cup circuit. Okay, 99 races, I think, is what they said they run here. You move into the top 10 with the who's who of Cup racing. How important is that to you?
Man, as time goes on, it's becoming much more important in my eyes. And I think it's just with age and the fact that I have so much time in the sport now, and I genuinely care for this sport and where it's going and where it came from. To have my name along with those amazing heroes of mine and yours and all of ours watching, over the years, we've all grown up around those names. I mean, it's awesome, man.
Yeah.
It is bad 3-letter word.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you, man. I'm with you.
Really cool to be
You
in
probably
this
can. I
position.
think these guys say it all the time. Hey, Jimmy, you guys have been so famous in the chase format for really heating up at the right time of the season. You guys are off to such a great start right now. Anything different about the way you approach this season, or it's just coming together a little quicker?
No, we've always said through the years that we try just as hard at the start as we do at the end. And at the end of the year, I think our team does a really good job of dealing with the pressure. But this year, we've taken advantage of opportunities really well. I think our efforts on pit road have made a big difference. So we've been able to keep our car in contention. At California, I didn't have the fastest car, but we figured out how to win the race. At Vegas, it was a draw with the 24, and we came out on 4, figured out how to win the race. Here, same thing. So I'm really happy that when opportunity is there for us, we're jumping on it and making it happen.
Because I don't know what to ask you anymore. I've always wanted to ask another. You've won so much, and we interview you so much. What was your biggest moment during the race today where you went, oh, no? Do you remember? Was there one?
There's a couple times on corner entry where the car was loose, but I have to say one of the biggest eye-opening moments was trying to get around the outside of the 16 there in the closing laps. I could see just a little room to the outside, and the 14 was on the bottom, and I thought, man, if I get pinned down here for a bunch of laps, or back here, they're running side by side, I'm dead in the water. So I was thinking about the top. I think it was the lap before there.
Yeah.
I knew it wasn't going to work at this point, and I figured I could get inside of him, but fortunately I cleared the 16 quick and was able to get to the 18 again.
You on the outside down there. You on the outside down there was a little reminiscent of Harvick trying you on the outside on coming forward.
Yes, it was.
You peaked, and then all of a sudden, okay, I'm going to back off
Yep,
of this.
very, very true.
Jimmy, can you sign our checkered flag here for a lucky fan? We're going to give it away to. And
Absolutely.
as we congratulate you on 50th win in your career, and what a great race it was.
Amazing, man.
Congratulations
Amazing.
once again to
Congratulations.
Jimmy Johnson. And each week here on NASCAR Victory Lane, fueled by Sunoco, one lucky fan will receive a Sunoco checkered flag autographed by the winner. This time, Jimmy Johnson. To enter, go to speedtv.com. Welcome back to Bristol, everyone. There you see the winning car from today. This is NASCAR Victory Lane, fueled by Sunoco. And we've talked about a lot of very impressive numbers so far on this edition of Victory Lane. But how about this for an impressive number? For Mr. Rick Hendrick and Hendrick Motorsports as a whole, this is Cup win number 191. Congratulations, sir.
Thank you, guys.
Yes.
Nice.
Congratulations. Yes.
Hey, I know you've probably learned by now to say that anytime Jimmy Johnson is within 4 or 5 cars of the lead, no matter what lap it's on, he has a chance to win this thing. But did this one surprise you at all?
It really did. And, I don't think we had a shot until that caution came out. But then when we had those guys lined up in front of us, I thought it was going to be probably a green-white checker. And I didn't know if we could get by 4 of them, I think it was, with 2 tires. But Jimmy got a good restart and got in front of the 2 car, and that's what we needed to do. And man, when we tend to go, if he's in sight of it, he kind of stands up in the seat. So,
Rick, you had to be crushed later on in this race. First of all of your cars ran great.
Yep.
Mark Martin looked like he could challenge for the win. You had to be crushed when this little incident took him out.
Mark, has added so much to our organization, and at that point in the race, he had our best car. And, he and Junior were good, and they were up there. And, I could not believe what happened there with the 16. I don't know whether Biffle didn't know he was there. Someone said his radio connection was loose, but whatever happened, it was a shame. He took out a lot of good cars.
Last week, the two-car wins the race at Atlanta, or 2 weeks ago, and Roger Penske's sitting in that seat. And he made a statement, and that was probably an incredible statement, because he said, we won this race today, and we're racing against the greatest organization that has been in Cup racing from the beginning, the Hendricks organization. Coming from Roger Penske, that's a huge statement.
It really is. Roger is one of my best friends, and I've always admired him and looked up to him. And we were visiting before the race today, and for him to say that means a lot to me. And he's done so much in his career, especially in open wheels. And I told him, I said, now look, you don't need to come over here and muddy this one up. You need to stay over there in the open wheel side. But he's been a great friend. And I remember when Daytona, I walked by and he said, I want that hat. Now, he called me before Daytona, and he said, I'm tired of seeing that hat in victory lane. So when he won, I went by there and gave him the hat, and he wore it. So I've got a Penske hat in my office, too. So
that's good.
Rick, we're trying to touch on every one of your team members because Jimmy wins all the time, so we're kind of wore out about those questions.
Yeah.
Dale Jr., you have really got that team turned around. Top 15 every week here lately.
Well, he had a top 5 car today, and he was really good there, and he got caught speeding on pit road and worked his way back. And, he's had some really good runs. And I think if you look at the chemistry now between Lance and Dale, and we've got Sunshine, the engineer, there with them, and they are just really bonding, getting better every single week. Confidence is there. And, they're just going to get better. And, I said everybody in our organization, Alan Gusson, really, he stepped up to help Lance. All new cars. There's everybody on those teams are working as one team with 2 cars. And, we said this was going to be the year. We just had to get the momentum going in the right direction, and I think we have. So I'm looking forward to next week in Martinsville with Junior.
Rick, what does it make you think about when you think about one of your drivers being in the company of Junior Johnson and Ned Jarrett, now 10th on the all-time win list with 50? That's some brilliant company.
Well, it feels like yesterday that I used to watch, Richard Petty, Lee Petty. I remember going, this is going to tell my age, Kyle. I was at Hillsborough watching a dirt race, and Lee Petty and Richard Petty had a grudge race with Buck Baker and Buddy Baker. And Buddy Baker had to borrow Pistone's car for that grudge race. And the Junior came in on a flatbed with his car and kind of shoe polish on the back of the car. And I saw all those guys in the trees there at the racetrack. We weren't paid to get in. I did pay to get in. But idolizing all of Richard Petty and Junior Johnson and Ned Jarrett and all those guys, and to see Jimmy, which it just feels like yesterday we started with him, and for him to tie some of those guys with that record. And he's got a long way to go to get to the king, but I'll tell you, it's been an amazing run for him, he and Chad, with the competition level that it's been at, and people can say they're lucky and all of that, but I don't know any 2 guys that put as much into it as they do. Jimmy, the way he eats, the way he trains, the way he studies the setups, and always looking at what other people are doing, and Chad the same way. And I think that chemistry has just gotten so solid that they're there every week, and if there's any blip, they take advantage of it. And
Well, Rick, congratulations once again on a great win for Jimmy. He's in some elite company. We always feel like when you come up here with us that we're in elite company as well when it comes to racing.
Yeah, and we'll have you back in a few weeks for number 200.
Nine more to go.
You probably win 8 races between now and Martinsville next week.
Yeah, I know.
Jimmy Wallace, I got to get him a truck, right?
Yeah, that's right.
I'm looking for a black dually for my dirt team. I just want a used one.
Kenny, what does that have to do with this
I'm going to
show?
buy it from HendrickCars.com. How's that?
Okay.
Over 6,000 cars online.
Rick, before we get in any more trouble, we got to go take a break here on Victory Lane. We'll be back in just a moment. But we want to remind you that if you want a piece of a big prize check, July 14th and 17th, the Legends Millions going on at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Be sure to go log on to that website, legendcars.com. Welcome back, everyone, to NASCAR Victory Lane on Speed. It is fueled by Sunoco, and you know there is good reason why NASCAR always calls results after a race unofficial, because there are a lot of factors that can make their way in to deciding who is in first place in points. A while ago at the end of the race, they had Matt Kenseth as first place, but now these revised points we just got have Kevin Harvick in first place by 1 point over Matt Kenseth, and Jimmie Johnson, as he goes for his 5th championship, now sits just 14 behind. But another championship contender is the number 14 of Tony Stewart. Had a very good second place finish today. Let's go to Bob Dillner.
The 14 boys really worked hard all day long because this guy didn't have the best car in the world, but it paid off in the end. A decision, 2 or 4 tires, and obviously you made the right choice, Tony.
Yeah. I mean, it's a gamble, obviously, but you know, our balance before that was really loose. So you know, we felt like we were in a position where we could take 2, and Darian made a great chassis adjustment that got me tight enough the last 10 laps to at least race the guys that I was on the same tires with. But you know, we had to do that to get some track position, and I felt like it was you know, Darian kind of asked me what I thought, and you know, I felt like it was a risk worth taking. So we got to the lead. We just couldn't hold off Jimmy. He was pretty strong.
You got a good jump on the start, and I thought maybe when you got by Biff, you know, you'd be able to hold off Jimmy, but he got to you so quick. Were you surprised by that?
Well, not really. I mean, he was one of the best cars all day, and we had a good race car all day. We just never got off on restarts really to get going. That was probably one of the best restarts I had all day as far as getting moving and getting momentum and getting locked in. But you know, it was like Dover all over again from last year. I couldn't make that thing wide enough to keep him behind us. I mean, his car was good no matter where he needed to go. So you know, it's fun when you can get a car to drive pretty good here. It's, you know, it's feast or famine at Bristol. If your car drives good, it's a fun, great day. If something's wrong or you have a problem and you get in the back, it's the day that won't end. So I'm glad we ended up with a good day.
Today, Tony Stewart is feasting upon a second-place finish. His first top 5 of the year, guys.
You know, just sitting there watching that interview, it's like, is that the Tony Stewart? He just seems so much more calm and relaxed, doesn't he? I mean, he's just like, well, you know, Darian Grubb, my crew chief, said, well, what do you think, Tony, 2 or 4? And Tony decides himself as the driver. Now, remember, he's car owner now, so he helps make the decision. So I think that's pretty phenomenal to see this transformation of Tony, just only the driver, to now he is helping the crew chief make decisions. Hey, look, it paid off. They got the car tightened up. He said he was loose all day, and he comes home in second place, so they're rolling. Good job.
Yeah, I didn't know where he was quite going there when he said we took 2 and my car was really loose, and I'm thinking, oh God, that always made me like twice as loose, you know. But he said Darian made a great chassis adjustment, and I think that's what you look at teams that come out like they came out last year. They came out last year. They had a great year last year. You think, okay, they're going to have the sophomore jinx. It's going to be a bad year for them. Quietly, they were right there in the top 5, exactly where they were at this point last year, exactly where they were at the end of the season last year, just plugging along, just knocking them out, knocking out those 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th, and eventually they started winning races around Pocono last time. So Tony's probably pacing himself. They've got a little bit different agenda. They want to be champions this year.
So, you know, if you got a boss that's the owner and driver, you let him make the call, because then the owner can't come to you and say, why should the driver make that call? As a crew chief, Darian Grubb's a very smart guy. We're going to take another break here on NASCAR Victory Lane, fueled by Sunoco. When we come back, we'll hear from more of the drivers that figured into this thing. Are you ready to discover NASCAR Nation's next great superstar? Introducing Fast Track to Fame. Join host Michael Waltrip and Carissa Thompson as America's most unique performers cut loose each week and compete for their chance to become a star. Catch an all-new episode from Bristol of Fast Track to Fame this Monday. Welcome back, everyone, to NASCAR Victory Lane on Speed. It is now quiet so the cows can graze here in Thunder Valley. That was not the situation just a few short hours ago, as here at Bristol the cars were thundering around the racetrack, and there's one guy who's happy after this race. This time it just so happened to be Jimmie Johnson. Now that means 42 other guys probably have a reason to not be happy, and that was the situation for Kurt Busch despite a 3rd place finish. Let's go back to Bob.
5 victories at Bristol Motor Speedway for this guy. I thought he was going to get his 6th year today. A caution there late in the race. Kurt Busch, you and Jimmy Johnson coming through the field. Take me through that last run right there.
We needed 4 tires. I thought that was the right call, and if we had lost the spot on pit road, we'd have been on the outside lane. That's the randomness of this double file restart, especially with the guys taking 2 tires. So we got hung up behind them too long. Jimmy weaseled through there quicker than we could. I really thought we had this one today. I poured my heart out to beat the 48. I know all the fans wanted to see it. The guys just going to dominate next week at Martinsville. We're no good there. I was hoping we could steal one away from them today, but they're just that good right now.
The victory at Atlanta, you come here and you get 3rd. But at the same time, even though you got the momentum, I know it's got to be pretty frustrating for you.
Yeah, it's disappointing not to win at a track that we're good on. Steve Addington's the heat right now, especially here at Bristol. Beginning to think the Busch brothers don't have anything. It's all Steve Addington. But, you know, it's easy to smile and say, hey, we finished 3rd. That's the cool part. But I really poured my heart into this. I wanted to win this bad. I was hoping it was going to go green to the end. But the Goodyear tires seem to struggle on those long runs for other competitors. But to lose to the 48, I could have picked 41 other better ones.
Simply said by Kurt Busch.
Wow. I never saw that one coming. I mean, the guy wins last week, or wins a couple of weeks ago at Atlanta. He runs 3rd here. And I think what he meant by the 41 others, I could have picked 41 others, was he said, you know, I poured my heart out to beat the 48. He wanted to beat the 48 car. Forget everybody else out there. They were the 2 dominant cars out here. But you know what he said? He almost has given up on himself, saying, you know, this is one, we thought we were going to steal one away from him. You know, we're no good when we go to Martinsville. You know, that's a crock. You know, he's a great race car driver. Addington, these guys at Penske have their stuff together. And if he's already given up on himself, you know, that's a mark against him right now. So if you guys are playing a speed fantasy game and fantasy league, don't pick him next week. I'm kidding. Because I'm telling you, he's going to go up there and he's going to do good. I think he's going to do a lot better than he thinks he's going to do, because that team, the Penske organization, they have their stuff together. These guys are the only Dodge team, and Kurt Busch is a good enough driver. I think he'll go home. He'll have his confidence back by the time he rolls off the truck on Friday afternoon at Martinsville.
Wow, so many things I have to say. First of all, I know how bad it hurts to lose. I mean, when you dominate all day and you lose in the very end, it's a crushing blow. I mean, it's happened to me and Kyle, you know, several times in our career. Number 2, you know, Kyle, you might win at Martinsville. Why? Because you have a new crew chief. You have Steve Addington, who has changed things around. It's proven now. It's official, race fans. Steve Addington is what he said is the heat. And then one more story. I'll never forget the late, great Dale Earnhardt saying to me, I was whining and crying in my early 20s. I was 26, 27 years old. I'm like, oh, Dale, I just keep running 3rd and 4th. He said, you keep taking those top 10s, that'll win you a championship. And I will never forget those words that Dale Earnhardt told me. So remember those. Even though Kurt has already got a championship, you get you a 2nd one with a 3rd place finish today.
And Earnhardt knew a thing or two about winning championships.
Yeah, I guess he won what, 1 or 2?
Yeah, a couple.
Yeah.
1 or 7.
1 or 2 or 7?
Yeah, 1 or 2 or
that's
7.
it.
So it was good advice to take. And one thing that Kurt Busch did hit exactly on the head was the fact that Jimmy Johnson's record at Martinsville has been absolutely phenomenal, and they're going in there on a definite roll as we head there next week. 2 short tracks in a row, and then another week off for the Sprint Cup Series. So an interesting little stretch coming up here, and to see just how dominating Jimmy Johnson really can be. And you know what is big? Is the Monday night lineup on Speed. Here it is. Check it out. Speed's prime time is packed with NASCAR fun with NASCAR Race Hub presented by Hooters at 7:30. That's got Brian Vickers on Monday. Fast Track to Fame from Bristol. That's at 8. The Racing Chef comes to you at 9, followed by Sounds of NASCAR at 9:30. NASCAR in a Hurry. Jimmy Spencer with What's the Deal? It's all only on Speed.
NASCAR Victory Lane is fueled by Sunoco, the official fuel of NASCAR. Put the fuel of NASCAR in your car. Brought to you in part by Polaris, the hardest working, smoothest riding off-road vehicles, now at your local dealer. And by ZigTech from Reebok, the energy drink for your feet.
Welcome back, everyone, to the world's fastest half mile, Bristol Motor Speedway, where Jimmy Johnson was victorious today, but there were so many other storylines along the way. If Greg Biffle can win a Cup championship, he will become the first driver ever in NASCAR history to win a championship in all 3 of the top series. And if it's true that top 5 finishes get you a championship, well, he took one more big step towards the Triple Crown today. Let's go back to Bob.
2 or 4 tires on that last caution. That was the question. Did you make the right call, Biff?
I didn't make the call, Greg Irwin, but yeah, I think so. You know, I mean, yeah, we could go back and do it over again and let's try 4 and see what that does. But, you know, this Sensus Ford Fusion really, really fast. You know, I wish I was just too loose. If I would have been like I was earlier, or the car had been driving like it normally did, I think I could have held him off. You know, I mean, I really do. But just so loose, I couldn't put the power down the back end sliding. You know, I owe an apology to Mark Martin. I mean, it sounds stupid. Everybody makes an excuse, but my radio, I was having troubles with my radio, and that whole run I didn't have a radio, and I didn't know he was outside of me, and I run him in the fence over there, and I feel bad. But I didn't know he was there.
I want to ask you about early on compared to late. You said you got a little too loose. Was it tires or what changed in your car?
Well, I know they freed it up with air because normally 2 tires will tighten the car up. But they raised the air pressure, plus they freed it up on the air pressure, and it was just too much.
Still top 5 at points for Greg Biffle.
Bob, thanks a lot. You know, such a wild race today and so many different races we saw. It seemed like each run was a little bit different, and we had our longest green flag run was the second to the last run. So we don't usually see that at Bristol.
Well, it's because this racetrack is much different now. You know, there's been a little bit of theory out there that, hey, bring Bristol back, make them all wreck again. Silly people, what's wrong with you? This is great racing. I mean, it's too wide all the way around. But the Biff put on a great show today. His crew chief, like he said, made a great call. 2 tires, he gets himself a good run today.
Yeah, and Biff was a stand-up guy right there, saying, "Hey, my radio was messed up. No excuse. I didn't know that Mark was out there." And it's hard to know in these cars. In the older cars that they used to run, you could tell when somebody was beside you. You can't tell when somebody's there. That's what those spotters are so important. They hook bumpers. They're up in the wall. Big kudos to Biff for taking the blame for that one, because that was a big deal. But when you looked at it, there was so many different races, and we've always had long periods of green in a Bristol race. But during that long period of green, everybody gets way spread out. These people didn't get spread out. There was always somebody coming from the back to the front or somebody going from the front to the back. I thought it was a pretty decent race up here today.
It was a great race in the end, especially for Jimmy Johnson. If you ask him, he's going to say it was a great race all the way around. Now, under NASCAR rules, the top 35, those cars who are guaranteed a spot in a race, are set by last year's owner points for the first 5 races of the season. Now, with 5 down, we revert back to this year's owner points, and here's the way they stand right now. And folks, if you don't quite understand this, you got to realize that being locked into a race is so important when you head into a race weekend.
Well, I'm going to take a big chance here and say this. I want to congratulate the 34 of Travis Kvapil and the 37 of Kevin Conway. And here's the chance I'm going to take. These teams, I guarantee you, do not have more than $4 million a year to operate. If they do, I will be stunned. These teams from 34th or down are just hanging on.
Yeah, and Pappas had great runs until this one and didn't make this race. So these guys are going to be fighting to get back there.
So we will see who goes and who goes home when we go to the next short track race. That is at Martinsville coming up in 1 week. But congratulations once again to Jimmy Johnson on win number 50. Let's take a look in the rearview mirror.
I'm the one doing that at Ricky Carmichael's school. I like asphalt. This is a 16-second lap. 4 seconds per straightaway, 4 seconds in the corner. You got no time to stop.
They can get awfully ugly and dirty on this racetrack at Bristol.
Right now, before the race even starts, there's drivers that are already mad at other drivers. But I can guarantee you one thing. When the race is over, every driver will be mad at every driver.
Every time I come in here, you guys make me feel better about myself because I feel so much smarter than what I thought I was when I came in.
Usually wouldn't pick Jimmy Johnson at this kind of racetrack, but I'm going with him today, and I think he might get the job done.
Yes, yes, yes!